Hey, Andrew Easton here for an episode in our Writing an AI series. It's going to be solo, and so excited to lean in a little bit to this conversation around AI generated feedback. And felt that this was important to have in the midst of the set that we have provided with regards to looking at the writing process in terms of maybe it's kind of steps or familiar steps, not to say that every writer goes through those in that order. Um, and it has been fun in going through the production of respective videos to look at the overlap between those and to glean different conversations that we've had with different individuals who have been our featured guests. And so for this particular one on AI generated feedback, wanted to lean into this idea first of all, because I feel like from at least these four of the larger set of 10 videos that we have, that we've not talked a whole lot about the opportunity to vet these AI tools and the need to do that. And so to start things off, I'm going to try to frame why that's important and then get into a little bit of talking about how should we potentially think about AI generated feedback, what that could mean in teachers, and some of the sticky kind of I would say that come with some of that. And then we'll circle back to thinking about how it is that we would get into this whole vetting process. But keep that at the forefront of your mind because that is a portion of what we're going to look at today. So what I'm going to do is bring up here a set of slides that will maybe speak to this. And so I know that there are AI tools out there, and so I've kind of left this one anonymous, that will produce on student work AI generated feedback that the teacher, at which you can see in this case, because here's my account, is able to then hit comment and then post that as a comment on, let's say, a Google Doc for student work. So when you're looking at this, some of the questions that you want to consider, because that really is the heart behind a lot of the work that we're doing with this particular project, is to say, what questions should we be asking as a department, as a school, as a district about these tools? And one of them is, hey, does this tool access my Google Drive? And if so, is that okay? And what I've found with most of these is that the answer to that is yes, that for them to be able to see student work, it is going to have to access either through Google Classroom or the student's account or your account, that student work. And to do that, then you're like, well, what else does this technology have access to? Everything that's in my Google Drive? And looking into that for some of the ones that we have recommended, I would say for the breadth of things that you'll be able to explore more in our AI tech tools portion of this resource, the answer to that is no, just the things that you share obviously would then be what the technology interacts with. But it's a question worth asking and looking into as you vet those tools. So then kind of moving on to the next piece, then you might say, okay, well, once I share that with the technology, what does it look like for that technology then to train on that interaction, which some of these do? And let's say that I'm allowing it to look at John Doe's paper. In looking at John's paper, then, does it train on the fact that this work was produced by John Doe and then really getting into some infringement upon the students' rights to have that kind of personally identifiable information be protected by the district? Are we sharing that in a way that's inappropriate? And so those are also questions worth asking. And what I found in the case of most, or I'd at least say the ones that I have looked into further, they try to scrub the name, and that becomes separate then from the training. I don't personally understand how all that stuff works. But that's what it says in the privacy policies. And so certainly encourage, again, as individual teachers or teams at your school to look into that further. So those are things that start to consider this AI generated feedback, because to give feedback means that the AI is going to need to interact with the student's work. And so we have to kind of do our legwork on the front end. And, I have seen advocacy for things like you're seeing on the screen right here. And I actually am going to move over and allow you to see this with a little more detail, where it provides the opportunity for me to make a comment that captures AI generated feedback and then would push that in that comments section to the student. And here's the question that comes to mind then. If I'm going to, let's say it like this, if a student were to turn into me an AI generated essay, and my best practice would be to then push back on that for academic integrity. We might have issues where we would start to label things like cheating and plagiarism, and please look into the resources we have available here to think about the nuances across those conversations in the era of AI. But then is it right for me, if the student is going to get all this pushback and potentially see adverse effects to their grade or challenges against their academic integrity, for me to then press comment here and post on the student's work feedback that I didn't create as a teacher? It's worth considering, right? And so then in addition to that, you might say to yourself, well, is it even important for it to need to go through the teacher at all? And I think absolutely yes. Your teacher's the one in these cases who is the professional, who's the one who's going to be going through grading this according to the rubric, and certainly providing feedback as the teacher is important. And in the era of AI, should the interaction between the student and that AI generated feedback, should we teach that it has to go through the educator? I don't know. These are just the questions worth pondering, right? Or would it be better to empower the student to be able to do that? I think that there's a certain camp that would say yes. However, are we going to do that through a teacher-created AI chatbot where we can ensure personally identifiable information, and also the information that the technology kicks back doesn't overstep in terms of skills or provide access to information that we don't want our students exposed to? Those kind of guardrails would be in bot that would be teacher created. But is that how students are going to learn to use this technology in the future? These are all really good things to just kind of consider. Again, I'm providing a lot more questions than I am answers here, and I'm fully aware of that. But it's important to think about those things, because that is painting the gray. And the dialogue that you'll need to have at that district school level to be able to really lean into this stuff. And so to share a few resources here as we bring this video a little bit, and I would encourage you to also watch the editing video that follows this one, as Teresa Ritta Olson and I got into a great conversation that does talk a little bit about AI feedback, and then focuses in on the editing piece in particular, but certainly there's some applicability of the things that we discussed there to this conversation. I'll point you to a few resources. So one, Brisk Teaching is a place where you can go and do a myriad of things, amongst which provide students writing feedback. School AI is a place where you could go to develop the type of space I was alluding to earlier, where it would give students feedback based upon certain criteria or with a certain emphasis that you design the chatbot to hone in on. It might sound really challenging to do that, to design, create, train a chatbot. But I'll tell you, it's really not, especially for educators who are used to being very explicit in their expectations and communication. So if you are a little adverse still to the thought of leaning into that, I would encourage you to maybe leverage an LLM, one of those large language models like ChatGPT or Claude, to help produce for you the language that you would need to train something in school AI. I've done that myself actually and found it very helpful. So there's another resource. And then Magic Schools, Magic Student portion of things has not only the opportunity to design a space in the way we just talked about with school AI, but there's also a writing feedback space there as well, where students can interact with that directly. And so again, trying to just equip you with the tools to consider as you have this conversation, look for opportunities to provide writing feedback. And then the last thing I think that's worth bringing up at this point is to say that if your district does not have, I would say, practical AI policy, I know there's some that are legally protective of the district AI policy, and that's really important. That's really great. But in terms of considering what this would mean for this to meet the classroom and to guide your conversations about vetting tech tools, try to get that team together. And if you feel like, and truly putting this resource together, and I can't say it enough, we've just heard time and time again that the expertise in district bring that type of group together in terms of understanding what questions that they should be asking. I would, one, encourage you to check out what guidance documents are out there. And if your state doesn't have any, there's some amazing guidance from different places. So be sure to look into those. And I'll give a shout out to Vera Cubero of the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, who's been a part of this project. And check out North Carolina's guidance if you are looking for a place to start. But then allowing the conversations and things we've shared in this resource to be hopefully will help, because without policy, without that guidance, it's hard to know where your school district would want to go in terms of the integration of these tools in support of writing, but to really bring it full circle in an era where there are resources that students could access at home to help them in the midst of their writing process, to not just see writing as something to be produced and to be done with, but rather to work through and with, and to enhance their ability to communicate their ideas, and to make sure that as people will lean more and more on this AI technology to represent their thinking, to make sure that it is accurately doing that. And so I really think that a great practice, and so maybe I will kind of close on this, is to say that putting different responses up on the board or printing those off and trying to foster within students the perspective needed to be able to revise AI-generated outputs, or the AI-generated output versus their own writing, and understanding things like voice, for example, and how important that is, and maintaining their own and not losing that or sacrificing that to the technology. Those things are key. So by modeling those and bringing that language around what it would mean to have just a thoughtful thought process in revising using AI-generated feedback is important, and it's something we're going to teach and model. And it's not something that many of us or any of us have learned in our pre-service experiences. And I personally have had to learn a lot of it just from jumping in with the technology and writing and figuring out what it can do, what it can't do, shortcomings, and then trying to find spots where it has just really helped, but also gotten in the way of my ability to do the thing that I love, which is writing and communicating and sharing good ideas like we've done here in this video. So thanks for your time. I hope that you check out the rest of the videos in this resource. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you find yourself saying, wait, what resource? You can access it in the show notes, or go to this. You will find our kind of 4-page comprehensive I'll walk through it for educators that hopefully is not too overwhelming. There's an accompanying document that goes a little bit deeper with that. We're just really excited to support everyone in this way. So thanks, and check out the rest of the videos. They're great. A lot of great speakers in there too. So enjoy learning.